gonna start.
All right, let's call the meeting to order, July 2nd. And we'll do a quick roll call. Davis. Ford is here. Hume. Loft.
Here.
Mellavite.
Here.
McCabe. O'Rourke.
Here.
Reagan.
Here.
Webb. Here. Rudy.
Here.
Green. Flynn. Haberman. And Quigley.
Mike's online.
Mike's online. And who's online, please?
I'm here.
Okay, that was Haberman, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You get all that? Okay, thanks so much. All right. I would like to make a proposal if folks have read the meeting minutes from June. Anybody have anything to add to the meeting minutes?
Second.
All right. Motion passed. Meeting minutes are good. All right. So we can start with citizens' comments. And we'll start with Kathleen
Oh dear.
Prentice.
Oh dear, I'm really not familiar with this process. I wouldn't mind having somebody else go first.
Oh, okay.
But
We're friendly.
all
All you
right.
do is just walk up to the podium and we'll have a 5-minute.
I go to the podium.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
5 minutes.
You'll get,
5 minutes.
yeah, I know you'll get a hook out, right?
I will.
Need your name and address.
Oh, sure, that I do know. My name's Kathleen Prentice, 617 Oxford Boulevard. Thank you for giving us a chance to bring to you again our concerns. This has been an ongoing problem. We live on Oxford Boulevard and we are cut off by Kelso. Kelso is a problematic road. It's 35-mile-an-hour speed limit that nobody pays attention to. And we have a crosswalk that goes nowhere. Over a green space. There's also problems down below. If you don't mind, it's easier for me just to read my thing and then I'll be done. Anyways, I was not here for the last meeting, but one thing that was related to me from the last meeting was that these things do not happen quickly. I have to need to agree with that because I've been trying to get help for Kelso's problem since I moved onto that street 30 years ago from Ridgefield. I have with me, and I can leave them all with you to pretty much everybody, emails dating back to 2019. I have copies of emails regarding safety on Kelso that were sent to Dan Miller, Connor Lamb, local LIBO representatives, and many other people. Upper St. Clair, which I was sent to as well, and to the state, to PennDOT. Unfortunately, I do not have a written history of the many phone calls that I've made trying to get help for Kelso Road from previous years. This all started not because I'm a crank, but there's that too. Soon after moving to Oxford, I almost got hit crossing the road on Kelso. And I started noticing children trying to cross there. We didn't have as many children there as we do now. We have a lot of kids that are living on Kelso, kids that live on Moreland, and kids that live on Oxford. Not just during school time. And I'm not getting any younger, and I walk a lot. And let me tell you, getting across Kelso, I mean, you gotta hoof it to get across there. I called Mount Lebanon Police when this very first happened, and that's when it all started. They directed me to my ward person, who I contacted, who then directed me to the state, who then contacted me back to Mount Lebanon, who then told me to contact Upper St. Clair. All of this I did, not with much help. I asked what could be done finally to the PennDOT people when I was told back there, this was a long time ago, and also about the dangerous intersection at the bottom of Kelso. And believe it or not, what I was told by PennDOT when I said in frustration, what needs to be done to have something done here? They said a fatality. I was not, you can imagine how anybody would react to that statement. We have had a child hit there now. I guess that doesn't qualify. We have had many accidents down there and that child who was hit. We need help. We need answers other than the residents, and I keep getting this told to me. The residents have to keep up with the commissioners We have to call the state, we have to make petitions, et cetera, et cetera. We have representatives, we have Mount Lebanon here to help us. We need you to help us rather than you tell us to help ourselves. Because this has been going on way too long. Please let us help. I have copies of all these letters. I have images with me, if you want, of the intersection where the crosswalk is, where people now illegally park. So children are now coming through illegally parked cars to cross over an intersection that's not marked. We had a speed thing there for exactly 1 week that did absolutely nothing. One of those electronic speed signs. It would slow people. I can see it from my back window when it was there. The cars would stop for 2 minutes, slow down, and then just speed up again. Even if anybody remembers Officer Gregory, yeah, you remember, if you're an old person from Mount Lebanon like I am, they used to put a stuffed policeman in a police car and leave it at the corner to slow down traffic. Officer Gregory, we'll take that. We'll take whatever help you can give us. Thank you.
See, you remember him.
He got stolen once. Do you remember that?
Correction, he was only half officer.
The kids, they did that at senior day, they stole him.
I think Hattie's done a good job with it. And again, I'm the Mimi. I did call,
Name and address. Your name and address, sorry.
Ann Hershey, 1170 Bower Hill Road, apartment T3. I did call, Mount Lebanon High School to ask to, attend the board meeting. And she said that, not to come, that was in June, because they were doing, finishing up the year, you know, the school. So, and she said that they were contacting people in the municipality about it, that they were working together, and there was the possibility of a crossing guard for the children. I don't know if that's happening, she just was telling me that so that I wouldn't bother to come to the meeting. But in the fall, I will be attending at the Mount Lebanon School Board meeting again to present the problems.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Deborah?
Laura Weston, Bill Condra, 55 Roycroft. I came 2 months ago with concerns about the speed of traffic on Roycroft. And it's a little disheartening to hear some of these other stories. Since coming here, I actually spoke with numerous members on our road, and they said that over the past 20 years, this is now the 3rd attempt where people have said a child is going to get seriously harmed on our road. Those are our 2 little boys back there. The speed of traffic on our street is egregious. It's used as a throughway to Hoodridge and behind the mall. We were really appreciative. Very shortly after I came last time, the electronic monitor went up, and I would say, if you want to keep it up, we'll take it. That was the best the traffic has ever been on the road. And that's what all the neighbors were saying too. I think what's frustrating for us is like on Orchard, which is so close by, they have not only speed bumps, but they have the little bumper things too. So we need something, like we need either a permanent speed monitor, speed bumps, or the little bumper pads, because children, it's literally a matter of time before someone is seriously hurt.
We moved to Mount Lebanon because the sidewalks are safe and free for kids to walk on, and we just can't do that. And we haven't been able to do that since they were born, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. And we would appreciate something. We're flexible on what that is, but something's got to be done. It's really just a matter of time.
And the monitor used as a way to collect data, I understand that, but if the data you're collecting is by virtue being regulated by the monitor itself, it's not accurate data. I mean, people were probably going on average 10 miles an hour lower when that monitor was in place.
That's a recent.
So, you know, I don't know what the data of that was. We weren't informed of that, but you know, that my worry is that that's not an accurate representation of the danger of our street.
And if it is, then people are looking at that and slowing down because of it. Let's just keep it up. It worked.
May I ask, is it still there?
No, it was there for a week. Bill's an attorney. I mean, I think we both have, I mentioned last time, I'm a pediatrician. I see accidents about to happen and this is one of them. I mean, it's, people are growing 50 to 60 miles an hour on using it as a throughway to other roads in Mount Lebanon, and the whole street is children. And our neighbor, the Best, 2 doors down, they've lived there for 32 years. They said that 20 years ago, their friend came here, made this petition, nothing happened, and then someone else came back 8 years ago, same thing. And then those people actually ended up moving because they had 2 little children and just couldn't stand the street traffic worries.
So you're on Roycroft between Mount Lebanon Boulevard and Vermont?
Vermont, yeah.
Yes.
What's the speed limit now?
Speed limit is 25. People, I think part of the problem is it's hard to see, it's not a straight sidewalk, there's curvature, and so what we notice is like our neighbor Finn, who actually came with me last time as a Boy Scout, and he rides his bike. And what's scary is when when people come around that curve, they're going so fast that I've almost seen people just run into like a parked car. Because it's hard to see and people are just going so fast.
We're right off of Washington Road, so people don't even realize that they're in a residential road by the time they get to ours, because it's so close to where Washington Road is, and they don't realize that there's kids there.
They don't care.
So it's just not, we have to worry every time they go outside, we have to run after them sometimes if they.
Yeah, we're,
Go
I mean, we
anywhere near
scream, if they go
sidewalk.
into our front yard, we literally scream, Rowan, come back here, because people are swooping by so fast, it's insane.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So, but there are sidewalks there. There are sidewalks.
Yeah, you at least have sidewalks. We have no sidewalks.
And David?
I didn't know if I was good. My name,
You had to go to the podium.
Make it official, okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. And they do a good job.
My name's Dave Helwig. I've lived in Mount Lebanon most of the time since I was born in 1950, including in the apartments on Mount Lebanon Boulevard, the duplex on Shady Drive East, in the house at Seneca Drive with my parents, and house on Rockland Place, which my parents owned and which I've owned since 1991. And also lived on the corner of North Meadowcroft and Newbern for a while. I came because I recently went to a meeting of St. Paul's Episcopal, main purpose of which seemed to be to push e-bikes. There's some community organization that sponsored it. I ride my bike a lot, and I drive up Kelso Road a lot on my way to the JCC where I swim. And I ride my bike on Roycroft. I mean, the people who live there know it best. I honestly don't agree that the problems are as dire as have been expressed. But as I said, the people who live there have the best view of it, particularly Roycroft. I mean, I ride my bike on Roycroft, and I seriously doubt anyone goes or even can go 50 to 60 miles an hour on Roycroft. But, and I live very nearby there. I don't know, I'm sorry, but I'm not saying don't do anything, but I'm encouraging restraint. My concern that brought me to this meeting was that there's going to be someone proposing that we have like a bike lane in uptown Mount Lebanon, which, okay, I'm a cyclist. I'm wearing a shirt from volunteering for Bike Pittsburgh's Open Streets, but and this isn't apropos of anything that anybody said tonight, but if the issue comes before this board, like putting a bike lane in uptown, as a cyclist, I oppose it. I mean, that's all I have to say. And I'm sorry if my comments have antagonized the people who express contrary views, but I'm here and I just wanted to say my piece.
Asking you about the bike lane.
Thank you. Anybody online,
This is all in Washington Road. Can you imagine a bike lane?
comments?
No hands raised.
All right.
It's like Groundhog Day a little bit.
So we want to talk through any of the comments, or should we move on, or what are people's initial thoughts?
I'll just maybe comment on the sign, to let you know that the way it's set up, it can be set up different ways, but, you can correct me, chief, if I'm wrong. But, the way they structure the sign, it doesn't show the speed limit until the speed's already captured. So as a vehicle approaches that sign, and you could vary that distance, it won't flash the actual speed that the vehicle's going that you see, which obviously slows you down if you're going over the speed limit until the speed is captured. So it's captured and then the speed is displayed.
When do we get the results of these?
That was collected by the police, traffic division, and they give it to the, traffic engineer that will review those. And then he'll decipher that data and put it into a report form. Who is Mike Haberman? Mike has his hand up. Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna just say what you said, Rudy, the way that the unit is programmed is it's getting the speed of the approaching vehicle in advance of when it's actually flashing up what speed they're going, and it records the highest speed that it gets. So if that vehicle is going 32 miles per hour before it even flashes, and then they recognize that it's there and they start slowing down and it flashes 28. 28 is not what's recorded, 32 is what's recorded. So I wanted to confirm that.
It was within 20 yards of a stop sign where the monitor was, so how is that gonna be the peak?
Traveling towards Mount Lebanon Boulevard,
Traveling towards.
the other way towards Vermont, towards the dead end of Road.
And ours was about 4 houses, 5 houses away from the intersection that we're talking about from Pembroke and Oxford. So it was after people had sped through the crosswalk area.
I think that, and you know, I don't want to speak for the police department or the traffic lieutenant, but I think they were trying to capture that where your house was because you gave us your address and so forth. So we're trying to get that actual information at your property. And then the crosswalk was the issue on Kelso.
Yeah,
So,
but it wasn't by the crosswalk. It was 4 houses down.
yeah, I mean, it's 200 feet, so that's,
Okay.
it's
I didn't
relative, yeah.
understand.
Yeah, lots are usually 50 feet wide, so.
As she said, we can just keep that. That's all we can get.
Actually, I can corroborate, because I also live on Roy Drive. I'm down past the dead end, and
Okay, you're done.
people speak down there. Yeah, my boy and his friends were just out playing wiffle ball today in the yard. It's concerning. See, we walked a lot, but see people coming down the street. Again, I don't know how to fix it. I am not an engineer, but look forward to all the different options that are there. When I first saw the sign, I didn't even know it was collecting data, but when I first saw the sign.
Our whole street, because I had told people I was coming, our whole street came over and were like, thank you, something, because I think they thought it was like a new fixture.
Go ahead, John.
So a common topic that's coming up in a lot of these comments is speeding, but with the exception of Kelso, the speed, it's a highway and the speed limit is higher. The assumption is that the speed limit is correct for the setting. My understanding is in Pennsylvania, 25 miles an hour is the default speed limit for residential streets. It's also my understanding that in a lot of countries, if you were to tell them that 40 kilometers an hour was the speed limit on a residential street where kids are playing, they look at you like they were crazy, like you were crazy. So I notice our neighbors, and I think Baldwin, have some of their streets at 15 miles an hour. Not school zones, but actual residential streets. I don't know if it's 100% effective because I don't think they changed the geometry at all to keep people to actually go that speed. But have we ever looked into doing something like that?
That's not enforceable through
That's-
PA vehicle code.
Okay,
25 is the minimum for a
so
residential
the
street.
signs aren't enforceable.
They're not enforceable, that's correct.
So just to clarify, right, so by state regulation, we are not allowed to enforce anything below 25.
Right.
Can we-
Well, take
How about
that
enforcing
back,
25?
take that back one step.
Right.
We technically can put up signs for 25 miles per hour because radar is not approved for speed enforcement in Pennsylvania, the only state in the country that does not allow municipal police to use radar, only state police. It's also built into the vehicle code that you have to give them a 10-mile-per-hour buffer zone before you can enforce. So if the speed limit on the roadway is signed at 25 miles per hour, police cannot enforce until it gets to 35. Most magistrates want you to give an additional 5-mile-per-hour buffer. So technically, people typically aren't getting tickets unless they're going 41 miles per hour on a 25-mile-per-hour road.
So, okay, well, then the question is even though we can't enforce less than 25, can we post less than 25 legally?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think, again, I'm not sure if Baldwin has. Somebody
Yeah,
has.
they're posted 15. I drive through there every day. I know Baldwin posted 15.
With that being said, I think that signs are largely a waste of time, and if it's not even enforceable, just focus on geometry. You can alter driver behavior, don't put little signs.
15 miles is an hour is the speed limit. It's only enforceable in active school zones. When they're active, that's the only time you can enforce 15 miles an hour. And I don't know, chief, is it 10-mile buffer on that too, on 15?
Yes.
I've noticed signage doesn't typically say when children are present either, it's just,
Just during the hours.
Yeah.
And the problem is, it's
this, I mean, living in this community, there are children present around schools all the time. So I feel like that's, been a concern of mine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would just want to point out somebody.
well, the problem is not the signs, the problem is the enforcement. There is no enforcement. As I said, Kelso, which you're calling a major highway, is not a major highway. It's 35 miles an hour, but it's residential. It's through a residential area, and we rarely, if ever, see any police stopping anybody on that road. Cedar Boulevard used to be a place where the police stopped everybody regularly, used to be a ticket area. And to that day, they still slow down more on Cedar because there was a ticket area there. If we had some ticketing on Roycroft, if we had some ticketing, even for a short amount of time. And I'm saying this knowing somehow I'll get a ticket. But, I do understand that, but if we had a presence, and I understand that the police are busy, but if we can't get anything else, which is what I'm keep being told, the state tells me this is your problem, our problem. They say, we have the highway, everything else is on you. That's what I've been told by PennDOT.
Meaning everything else, sidewalks.
Sidewalks, painting signs, speed limit, signage, any kind of stuff. I've been told by PennDOT, that's on Mount Lebanon. It's their road. Until you get to the bottom, then it's Upper St. Clair's Road. And a bit of it's Scott Township's road. That's what the problem is. But there's still no enforcement on that road. And it's really gotten, they are going absolutely 50 and 60 on that road.
When I say it was a highway, I just mean that PennDOT owns that road and that's how they classify it.
They classify it as your problem, is what they classify it as.
They control the speed limit on there. We requested about a year ago to reduce the speed limit and they denied.
They told me
Municipality.
that was, I asked them that and they told me it was your problem.
We have the letter and
Okay, I'm gonna write them again.
again, it's 35 miles an hour, but as the chief said, you have to have a 10-mile-an-hour buffer. So it will be 45 before they can even think about issuing a ticket.
Yeah, but you know what? Even if they just saw a policeman. I'm not actually asking for tickets.
Mike, Mike Haberman, do you have, you work for Gateway Engineers, do you guys have any empirical evidence and, studies that you could pull in terms of driver behavior on signage versus, road humps versus?
What I would say is that data really across the country has shown that drivers in general will drive as fast as they are comfortable driving on the road, given its geometry, typology, what's there. So if you can comfortably go 50 miles per hour on a road, 85% of the people are gonna go 50 or less. Even if you post at 35. So the posting is really only a function of enforcement of that posting. But the speed you're gonna see on a road are in general, they're gonna be however fast people are comfortable driving on that road, given their surroundings.
So you have to make the road uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, that's the idea with traffic calming is that, like, you can slap signs up, but people don't read signs, you get sign pollution, they don't pay attention to them, so you create the physical obstacles like we did on Arden. But, that has its limitations on, it costs a lot of money and you got a whole bunch of people clamoring for these types of things, so that's why the policy is the way that it is, to really highlight those neighborhoods that are a problem based on data that's collected. Because I can guarantee you could take a resident from every street in Mount Lebanon, and they're gonna say the exact same thing. People are going 50 miles per hour down the road, it's dangerous for the kids, so that's all subjective, right? They live there. They believe that that's what they're seeing, but we do the screening data and we do those evaluations to really identify what it is. And that's why the policy is what it is and the thresholds are what they are, because it really does, it brings out the neighborhoods that truly do have a problem.
Sorry if this was mentioned, but when is that data gonna be available?
thank you.
So I have the data. I just have one more question before I share it. I want to talk to Lieutenant Green about it. But I can tell you that the data on both Roycroft and Salem, both volume and speed don't really even approach the thresholds for traffic calming.
And the speed on Kelso?
Kelso was not in the data that, I got Roycroft data and Salem data.
We have data.
I see Mr. Helwig has a question back there, but could I follow up with an anecdote about what Mr. Haberman just said? A few months ago, we reviewed the Washington Road safety audit. And one of the things that jumped out at me was that on one section of West Liberty in Dormont, actually, it's 35 miles an hour. And the first thing that popped in my mind was like, why? It's right in front of their public library. Why is it 35 miles an hour there? And I remarked that. I don't know if that comment made it in, but the second thing that occurred to me was I didn't know that. I commute up that road by bike sometimes. I didn't know the speed limit was 35 because no driver pays attention to that sign. The driver behavior is pretty uniform all the way through. Some sections are 25, some sections are 35, but traffic's pretty much the same, despite that 10-mile-an-hour difference. Speed limit signs mean almost nothing.
Our data isn't done.
And just to show that this is not just a Mount Lebanon problem when it comes to state roads, Dormont has tried multiple times and requested multiple times that the speed limit through their borough along West Liberty Avenue or Washington Road, I forget where it switches over, that it be reduced to 25, and the department PennDOT has said it's appropriately posted at 35. So they're in the same boat, at least on that road, as the municipality here is on Kelso.
Well, they have stoplights.
Could I make a comment? In case I haven't already antagonized everyone in the room, I'd like to address the issue of enforcement. I mean, I've lived in Mount Lebanon most of my life, since 1950, and I've lived all around it. When I was growing up, Mount Lebanon was notorious for being a place where you would get a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I got my first speeding ticket going down
Me too.
Gilkison Road, and I was like 5 miles over the speed limit. I was just like, and I didn't even have my feet on the gas. I was just like drifting, rolling down the hill, and I got a speeding ticket. This isn't the first time I've said this. The traffic and speed enforcement in Mount Lebanon, as far as I can tell, is non-existent these days. I ask myself, what do the officers do? Because there's certainly no, I mean, you used to see, you barely even see a police car driving through a neighborhood or any, and I ride my bike. I've ridden like 750 miles on my bike this year. And nowadays I mostly ride on the streets of Mount Lebanon. I never see a police car on the residential streets. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. And I'm sorry to insult whoever, but I think putting some more police cars out through the neighborhoods could be a possible
Yeah.
partial solution to the issue that we're talking about.
I just wanted to follow up on the monitor on Roycroft. I think that kind of proves our point that having that up there, I think, to me, it made a big difference. I could tell people were going slower. I'm not proposing any more speeding tickets. I don't want speed bumps. We don't need that. I can tell you the people on Roycroft, if it's an unsightly issue, they are not going to complain. Everybody wants that sign there. I can tell personally, if I'm seeing that I'm going too fast on a residential road and it's telling me right there, I'm going to slow down. I do it every time. And I think a lot of people are the same way. I don't see the downside to leaving that sign up.
At what point
We
does
can
it
get our yards
lose
for all we care.
its efficiency?
I'm sorry.
At what point does it lose its efficiency? Or like its, yeah,
In what
its
sense?
effectiveness? Like the longer you leave it up, I mean, becomes,
Well, I don't think the intent of those devices, I think it's to capture data, really, primarily, right? Right, chief? I mean,
It has mixed, yeah.
Yeah.
Some to slow down, but like you said, sometimes they also just become an
part of the
afterthought, like
scenery, right?
any other sign, yeah.
I feel like when the people that drive those routes
Correct.
go through them, they learn, right? It's almost similar to like putting a fake deer in your yard, right? People will learn that,
It's fake,
yes,
yeah.
Are they expensive?
Not cheap. I wanna say the pole mounted ones, and I'm a retired chief, don't, I'm a resident who's volunteered to report, so.
Very good.
Yes, but I think when we bought them several years ago, I wanna say they were about $5,000 to $6,000 each.
Yeah, and
For the pole mounted ones, the trailer ones was about $15,000.
The trailers too.
Trailers are
Yeah.
about $15,000 to $16,000, yeah.
Yeah, we bought new ones. We added,
Additional, right?
right, because we know this is an issue, right? And we do want to be capturing as much data as possible. But again, there's only so many that can go around.
And you have to recharge them too, right?
The pole mounted ones, yes. They do make ones that have a solar attachment to
Yeah.
them if they're gonna be more permanently installed. The
Right.
trailer has a solar panel on it, so yeah, it's possible.
So they only last a certain amount of time before you have to recharge them.
I apologize though for interrupting one more time, but we got off on the speed thing. And the real problem on Kelso, the major problem on Kelso, we have an unmarked, basically unmarked crosswalk for children. We don't have any sidewalks, so you either come down from Bower Hill with no sidewalks and walk in a street to get over to us, or you cross over a green space to come across a very badly painted, it's fading, crosswalk that doesn't even say that it's a crosswalk there. That is really the major issue here, not just the speed on Kelso. There's no safe place to cross that street. We are like cut off from Mount Lebanon, though we are Mount Lebanon.
I mean, we can do that, right? Like we control the painting and
We try to repaint them every year.
we print those like slow on the road, like.
We
they
don't
did
have
on
slow.
Hill, you know, like, or like they did on Cedar, when they redid that intersection, they put slow.
Yep, look at Cedar's beautiful.
It is really
No,
nice.
ours is, I have pictures of it. You can see how. And now that people are parking illegally on the other side of the road, kids are crossing between two cars into this crosswalk on the middle of Kelso. If you know where I'm talking about, it's that blind turn on Pemberton coming down to Kelso, and kids are crossing there and people park on those. Yeah, it's not safe. That's where the kid was hit. And we don't even know what happened with that person. I mean, we know what happened to the kid. We don't know what happened to the person who hit the kid.
She turned herself in.
Yeah, we don't know what
So
happened.
that's something that if a resident was to call the police, they would come out and enforce and give a ticket or a
Yeah,
warning
it's
or?
in violation.
Okay.
Don't
So-
quote me, it's either 15
Yeah.
feet or 20 feet.
Take it
within
within the
crosswalk.
intersection, yeah.
Somebody did that.
Intersection.
Somebody did that, but the people who in question are recent immigrants, I guess. And it sort of has been uncomfortable for people to do that. They feel like they're,
Being targeted.
yeah. It's like the petitions that keep people telling us to do. People are not comfortable signing petitions anymore, people coming door to door with petitions. It's not something people want us to do.
All right, the next item is the chairperson's report. Seth is not here today, but, I was trying to see if he had some emails that he was sending out. So, I guess we can go to the commissioners, report.
Sure, not a whole lot to report more broadly. Obviously, you're all aware that the active transportation plan process is underway. I know Ian McMeans, our assistant planner, or our planner, our assistant manager, did reach out to me today, tell me that he is trying to work on the draft to get the RFP out to a consultant, to the consultant community, because obviously these types of issues are kind of primed for exactly why we need to do an active transportation plan. We need to think about this holistically. Yeah, so that process is moving forward. As you all saw, Cedar Salem went very well. By all accounts, the residents have all been emailing me and thanking me profusely, which has been, lovely. I just wish we could do it for every street. But again, small victories, we take them. As I think about this, right, it's really a question of how do we keep moving this forward incrementally, understanding that a lot of what we are doing on this board is really at a policy level, right? How do we enable incremental change? Because every street is going to be an issue at some point. And I'm very interested in the tactical urbanism proposal that was put forward. Again, knowing that, it's just paint, but if we can create visual experiences that are different on the street, and that brings capacity to staff, I think that would be pretty cool. All right, to do some interesting things, allow residents to create different experiences on there, on the public right of way. But lots of pieces to kind of work through on that. But I do applaud that effort, because again, it's these little incremental changes that it's not always about a sign or a flashing light. It's how do we create a different experience on these roadways, especially the residential ones. And more importantly, right, the big ones, to the point about Arden, is very expensive. So in so much as we can look at tactical solutions, right, that are semi-permanent or at least, transitional, it creates opportunities to learn and grow and evolve, our understanding of the right of way without putting in, hardscape, which is cheaper, right? And we can move things. But again, we need to have a policy in place that's going to allow that. And so I'm hopeful that you guys can push that forward. We can get something to commission. The other things that I'm interested in are and I said this to Charlotte and Seth, there is a walk week. I don't remember the exact details.
It was September 30th through the 6th.
Yeah, basically the idea is it's a national program of, encouraging people to try and go a week without a car. Not that you have to, but again, it's like, there are people in our community that don't have cars that have to live, walking, biking and taking transit. And so how do you understand that experience? Obviously I signed up for it because I bike everywhere anyway. But again, trying to encourage that, I think that's an interesting program. And again, especially as we're going back into school, right? And kids are walking. So we want to be thoughtful about that. So if there's a way that we can move that type of program forward here, to kind of rally people around the experience, I think that would be pretty cool. So again, another thing that is with Charlotte and Seth. The last pieces that I'm interested in, just kind of right off the top of my head right now, are Vision Zero, which is a national, it's a framework that is being used nationally around traffic safety.
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero. And the Safe Streets approach. Seth has, I think, mentioned this a couple times, but the Vision Zero framework is really about how do you design your streets and transit systems to prioritize safety first instead of, other priorities, which is kind of traditionally how we have thought about transportation networks in the United States. Again, a lot of municipalities have already adopted the Vision Zero, and it comes with a lot of potential funding streams available. So again, another thing that I would like this board to pick up and look at as a policy proposal for commission to consider. That's all I've got, unless you guys have questions.
Question about funding, because there's a lot of bill IIJA money out there, and one of the things my team does is assist large organizations in charge of infrastructure. How do we go for any, what's the, is it the commissioners that decide which one? Because there's, safe streets for all and.
No, we don't. It's specifically as commissioners do that. Right, again, my day job, right, I advise municipalities, and so I'm spending a lot of time chasing these types of programs also, for different agencies. We don't, as commissioners, do that directly here, right? I will frankly, when I see new grants come up, I'm emailing Ian or somebody, I'm like, look, here's different things. But ultimately, it's up to staff to, make that judgment, because again, it's a capacity question, right? Which is what I always tell people, in this region, yes, we are very lucky here in Mount Lebanon. We have great staff, and we are reasonably resourced, given our size, but we are not as resourced as a lot of places, because again, we have 35,000 residents, right? So we just don't have the tax base to really build the capacity to chase a lot of the big federal programs, right? Our projects aren't that big. So it's kind of that balance of trying to find different ways to go and chase dollars, right? There's lots of grant money out there. There's lots of other programs out there, but again, it's like you got to have a certain amount of scale to get some of them, and to really do transformative stuff. You kind of have to vision big, and that's hard when you're 6 square miles.
And then provide all the data to back it up.
Right.
Yeah, understood.
So it's kind of that balancing act, right? And that's why I'm trying to work on this at a local level, is just helping and encouraging, and again, adopting Vision Zero types of things, right? That opens up different paths. But then this is also a question of working regionally, because, if you can start saying you're working cross jurisdictionally, right? That opens up new dollars, right? That opens up new opportunities, the more partners you bring to the table. And it gives you more opportunity to chase larger amounts for more strategic projects. But again, now that requires multiple municipalities participating, which is, a different scale of challenge. But that's really where the dollars become very interesting. So yeah, it's a long way of saying, we are chasing dollars, and they're very successful at chasing dollars.
Chase the right ones.
Yeah,
We do.
yeah, they do.
A lot of funding, primarily from the state and the county. Green Light Go is one of the programs we use. We get almost annually, we get funding for that. We also, most of our ADA ramps are upgraded using county CDBG funds. So a lot of that money comes from the county. It's offset. We have some contribution, typically it's as high as, 50-50 match, but some of them are even less than that, municipal contributions. So there are a lot of dollars that go into upgrades of intersections, and we do have 42 intersections, which they're expensive to maintain and build and update and all that type of stuff. I mean, typical install now for a traffic signalized intersection is probably about $400,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Put in a new one.
Yeah, for a new one.
For a traffic safe.
Yes. So, and we have, I think, 7 flashing, actually, I think 13 devices in school zones that are remote for flashing for 15 mile an hour. Some of the school zones in the elementaries are just signed, not flashing devices. So we have a good bit of equipment and infrastructure that we maintain throughout the community. And we only have 1 traffic signal technician. So.
Thanks for the information.
But I mean, I guess, Andrew, like, what would be your thoughts for the no card week? I mean, as far as like communicating, I mean, did you think we could talk amongst our?
I think for me, I would just say that it's something that I am personally interested in.
Right.
If the mobility board more broadly is interested in seeing this as a opportunity, maybe if it's not even this year, right? Maybe we need more time to do something like this.
Yeah.
Next year. That's fine. Right, there's a lot of kind of logistics to think through in terms of like, why would we do this? And what are the opportunities? And how would we, again, you could do a whole campaign around it. But that would require, right, a lot of, staff time and school district time. I'm looking at you, right?
Yeah.
To kind of pull those types.
You.
Yeah, right.
These
Right. Yeah.
initiatives a lot.
Yeah, so trying to pull all these pieces together to make it really successful. It might be just, having, as I sent you, a proclamation that just says this is, walk only week. All right, the first year, but again, it's really up to you guys as to whether you think that is a useful thing to do, and whether you want to push it forward or not. I will defer to you. I'm gonna be bicycling anyway.
Yes, and I know Beth would too, if she was here. All right, well, I mean, we have one subcommittee already, but I think, that specific day, is it a subcommittee item or is it more, just community outreach type thing? And I don't know that we have that subcommittee either, within our group, but, those are just some thoughts.
There is one
Oh, is
like
it?
us for community outreaches or something similar.
There's civic engagement board.
Civic engagement,
Okay, right.
Yeah.
so it might be a partnership with them.
But forgive me, I'm looking at the agenda here and I should know, but what is the subcommittee we have?
Yeah, budget.
Oh, budget, okay. We add that just so that we have a standing like item in the agenda. Again, you guys can create any subcommittee you want, right? You just, Seth, who is not here, is a de facto member, which means that when he's not here, you are a de facto member
Yeah.
of every subcommittee. And people have to want to participate. So again, I would go back to, look, if this is something that you're interested in under new business, someone can raise it and say, I'd like to create a temporary subcommittee to look at, doing a walk week. And to report back in a month. And then you guys can vote on that, and if you all pass it, then you've created your subcommittee, and you better get some volunteers to come back in a month and have a recommendation.
Did anybody look at the files I uploaded to the SharePoint?
I was out there today.
I mean, it would be buried in a folder probably from,
Oh,
yeah, I sent out an email with a link, so.
okay.
Yeah, if you didn't click the link, you probably didn't see it. It wasn't in this meeting's folder. It was in just, I put it somewhere
Okay,
because I didn't know where I should put it.
okay.
I did see the email. For subcommittee.
I'm good.
A call for subcommittees?
Well, I put, I made a Word document with some ideas for subcommittees and then I was like, hey, look at these, edit them, add your own ideas. And then once we have some ideas, let's talk but I was thinking, of course, in terms of more like standing subcommittees that we plan on keeping around for years.
Right.
As opposed to something very narrow in scope where it's like, we want to achieve this thing. And
Yeah,
then once that's achieved, the subcommittee. I was thinking more like in terms of just like functions of this board, subcommittees to hone in on those aspects. But yeah, I had been hoping to maybe talk about that at this meeting, but if no one's looked at it yet, then there's nothing to talk about, so.
Sounds like a new business item.
yes, that should be something that we should add. All right.
I didn't hear back about it, so I was like, oh no, did I overstep my bounds and everyone's just ignoring me or is everyone busy, so. Probably, yeah, there was like a Sunday where I had like a free Sunday and I did like a bunch of stuff.
I remember like we were driving somewhere and I remember looking at it and thinking that I needed to go back to it, but maybe that's some of the reason.
Yep, sorry.
No.
Was communication one of the subcommittee?
It's in a wiki.
Take care.
Oh, it's in progress, 2024 WIP.
Thank you.
Work in front, yeah,
Yeah.
we could put it somewhere else, I didn't know where to put it at the back.
Which folder did you say it's in?
WIP, WIP,
Okay.
under 2024.
Thanks. I mean, I do think that it's worth seeing, definitely, John, but But you're right, until all of us have had a chance to see it, I haven't had a chance to look at it myself, but, you know, then we can talk about that, but so
Yeah.
that would be a more organized approach for having, you know, subcommittees, you know. I would-
And if you do take a look at it, feel free to send an email, to reply all to my email saying saying it's like, oh yeah, I looked at this and I did some things
Okay.
to remind the people who aren't here to look at it too.
Okay. I'll take a look. All right. The next item, we do have a staff liaison report.
So I have a couple updates. We're close to completing the Bar Hill Washington intersection upgrades. All the pavement markings are in, the lane widening has been completed. That was done last fall. The contractor has the APS units, the accessible pedestrian signal units in place. We're gonna meet with the manufacturer and the contractor, next week, to get a little schooling on how to adjust them and basically what they are. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're devices that actually beep. They're the pedestrian crossing buttons that actually beep constantly. So visually impaired people can find them. And then once you push the button, it tells you whether it's safe to cross the street or not in each direction.
What's the last word on that? Accessible
APS.
pedestrian.
Signals.
Signals.
Yeah, APS, yeah. So those are, they're in place. We have them at that intersection. They were also installed at the intersection of Cochran and Cedar, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. The biggest issue with those is they beep 24/7. So it's a constant beep, and if your house is right next to that corner, it can get a little bit annoying. So we've had some calls from folks there, and there's adjustments on those. So that's the primary reason we want to get together with contractors, and we're going to be placing those at intersections with a grant. I think it's Green Lake Go grant throughout the Washington Road corridor as well for business districts. So those will be at all the intersections. Updates, as Commissioner Flynn mentioned, are complete down at the Cedar Salem Holly Cross intersection. Turned out really nice. I think it looks really good. We have to put the pedestrian crossing signals in, so we're gonna meet with the traffic engineer next week for placement and position. We have to drill holes there 5 feet deep, 24 inches in diameter for concrete bases to mount them to. They're solar powered. I think they last without power up to 14 days. The units that we got with full charge off the solar panels. They're also Bluetooth, rapid flash beacons like we have up on Washington Road in both directions on each unit. And we also chose to put the edge lit signs up as well, so they'll be edge lit when they're activated. So they communicate with each other. If you push one side, both sides light up and activate.
At least that's what they say. At least that's what they say.
Not, they're under warranty.
My crossing guard's gonna be so happy. I mean, every day she looks like she is so nervous about trying to stop cars.
It's amazing, like, when the contractors pulled the curbs in down there and installed the new curbs, when you stand there, it's like, wow, I can get across here now, you know,
Yeah,
it's
much
not too far, yeah, it's,
Very
before it was it was pretty good hoof, you know, so you had to really hot footed across there, so it's a big
I
improvement.
almost feel like it helps the tennis people too, because they're crossing, you know, middle, which we've heard about that before, but if you're coming, you know, going southbound, I guess, on Cedar, and you see that crosswalk, the new, brand new, fancy, it's gorgeous. But then you're also seeing like, maybe there's a tennis person crossing, you know, I feel like just visually, you know. I get that interpretation that, you know, I'm already slowed down, oh, and now they're crossing in the middle there where they usually do to their cars. You know, I think that that's a win, even though it's not the, you know, where they cross, however, you know. I feel like it helps that too.
I think it's gonna look really, just from a landscape standpoint too, when the grass starts growing,
It's
and it's
already
starting to fill in, yeah, it looks really nice, I mean, it just really an improvement of the whole intersection, so.
The only thing I want to see now, and I should have mentioned it. You're
Too late.
I know, it is too late, it is too late, but you know, when I saw that big tire mark
Yeah.
through the grass, I was like, bollards, we forgot
Well,
bollards.
delineators, bollards will, yeah.
Bollards will stop
Yeah,
things.
they will.
I like safe pedestrians who are standing there waiting for the bus.
We'll see what happens. I think, you know, part of that, I think that happened before the road was milled and paved and the
Yeah.
pavement marked. So you had that yellow cross hatching in there.
Right.
When you drove over it, even myself, it's a little uncomfortable because you're driving over cross hatching, which you're
Right.
taught not to
Yeah, don't
do.
do that.
So, yeah, so, you know, someone, maybe they were admiring something else and they kind of went over the curve theirs, but it,
Well, it happened with.
We'll
the
see,
tra-
there's
it
one-
hap- It happened with the traffic circle, now it's happened down
I think
there.
it was intentional with the traffic circle.
Could have been intentional there too.
It could have.
There's some stuff.
So, but it's definitely a big improvement.
Yes, it
It looks
is.
really good, so. What else we have here? Our staff continue painting crosswalks and stop bars. They're making really good progress with the dry weather. Really looking good out there. They're getting a lot done daily, so kudos to our guys. They're really making a lot of progress. And just so you know, I think we have 220 intersections that we paint with crosswalks and stop bars currently, and we typically work on the main corridors like Bower Hill, Cochran, Washington Road, Cedar Boulevard, those primary corridors during the year. And then when we get closer to school, we paint the school zones with the slow school zones and the arrows of crosswalks so that they're the freshest crosswalks going into the school season. So that's typically what we do.
Is there, right, and I actually thanked them when I saw them for
Our guys?
painting, yeah. But I asked them at the time, right, I said, are you guys gonna paint the, Cedar Salem? They said, no, it's a contractor, because they're using a different.
No, it's thermo. It's thermoplastic. Yeah, it's thermoplastic that it's adhered to the surface. We don't paint those until they start to deteriorate. And that was put in on when we did the change of the intersection for the straight through and the left turn and the right turn. So the thermo was used on Greenhurst side.
Okay,
And it's still fresh white and
Yeah.
highly visible with the glass beads in it.
well, my question is, if we're painting 220 intersections we're painting a lot. Is there a justification to put thermo in, right, more consistently, because that will reduce the amount of painting that we have to do?
We do that at intersections like Cedar Salem and Holly Crest, where we have those. That buys us 3 or 4 years where we don't have to go back and paint those.
Right.
It's a lot more expensive to do that. I don't know the exact cost, but it's a lot cheaper to paint them with paint and glass beads and throw glass beads in them.
Okay,
We look at that and from a cost perspective and a safety perspective, because our guys aren't on the road as much then, or
Right.
other places, we try to use that primarily on main roads.
Main.
Like Washington Road, when I say main roads,
Yeah.
main corridors, Washington Road, Cochran Road, the really busy streets, so.
Right. Okay.
So it's a judgment call, and we
Yeah.
try to use it when we can, or when we're upgrading. We'll throw that in there because it's a little bit extra cost, but it buys us 3 or 4 years because it's hard to get 220
Right.
crosswalks, intersections painted every year, depending, like, we had a great year so far this year with weather. It's been dry, it's been warm, paint dries quick, because you gotta keep the traffic off until it's,
Right.
it's dry, so. And as it cools down, it takes longer for the paint to dry, so you get fewer intersections done.
What's quicker too in that whole benefit cost analysis, putting down thermoplastic or paint?
Thermoplastic, because you don't have to go back to that intersection for 2 or 3 years. However,
Just the initial installation.
yeah, we don't repaint them until they start to deteriorate, because that'll eventually, it's basically melted plastic that adheres and bonds to the surface of the street. And we haven't had a lot of success on concrete streets, which we don't have a lot left. It won't work on brick streets. It won't bond to the bricks. So we have to paint on bricks. And the asphalt, if it's deteriorated, doesn't bond real well either. But depending upon the type of surface that you have, it'll last up to 3 or 4 years before, the heat and cold cycles and so forth, snow plows going over, it starts to peel it off. But, we'll get 3 or 4 years out of it for sure.
So I thought you said 42 intersect,
Those are signalized intersections.
Oh,
That's the
signalized.
traffic, that's the electric,
right, and then
stoplights.
of the 200 plus crosswalks, that could be 4, like, is that
Correct.
as 4?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And we track all those on GIS now, so
Yeah.
when we paint them and repaint them, so. I have one other item here for, I don't know if Mike wants to talk about it a little bit, Mike Haberman. He's setting up a resident meeting, for Scrubgrass. I'm gonna talk about it now, in early August. So, I think the board, will want to have somebody represented.
Invited to that.
Yeah.
I got an email from.
Yeah, and Seth.
Yeah.
So I think Seth expressed interest in that as well.
There.
So, this will be the second meeting, I believe, with the residents from Scrubgrass to discuss options. The first one was just, to confirm that there was, everything, the warrants were met for, potential, installation of traffic calming measures. This one will be some options to do some things on that street.
Okay.
So a couple things. One I asked, and Mike, I'll let you talk, I promise. I just logistics, real quick. So I asked them to, include Seth and Charlotte, really just because they're chair and vice chair. It's up to the board to determine how you want to do this. Right, I would like to see going forward, when these types of initiatives happen, that there is a representative of the mobility board or two, right? The role is really to listen and learn more than anything at this point, right? We need to build capacity. Obviously, we have kind of think about this process. And again, as we start to build a body of knowledge on the mobility board in terms of kind of street design, thinking about these types of things, right? Obviously building over time that capacity to influence and help residents think about what they want their street to be like, and different approaches, right? Because typically we'll always get, I need a sidewalk and a speed bump. And it's like, yeah, there's lots of other things that could happen. Let's open up that to residents, right, as they're going through this process. So that's really what that was my intent, was not just to say, hey, Charlotte, you have to go to this meeting,
Right.
but to make sure that the board itself, is engaged. Mike, it's all yours.
Yep, so this is the next step in the NTMP process that I shared with you folks a couple of months ago. I think at your first meeting, or maybe it might have been the second meeting. We have collected all of the data and we've developed all of the alternatives for traffic calming. So ultimately what that report looks like is, like Andrew said, it's not just speed humps. There's 12 to 15 different kinds of treatments that we consider. So the purpose of the second neighborhood meeting is to review, here's all of the things that can be done. You could do some, you can do none, you can do temporary, you could do permanent, you can do short-term, you could do long-term. So the purpose of that meeting is to discuss all of these options, go through the pros and cons, because no matter what, there's cons associated with each. So, for example, speed humps, if you put a whole bunch of speed humps in series, the disadvantages are emergency vehicle response times. I mean, there's negatives more than just we're slowing the typical vehicular traffic down. So we go through all of those advantages and disadvantages. And the idea of the meeting is to come out of that meeting with the neighborhood and the residents coming to a consensus on a plan to present to you folks at this board. Then they will come to one of your meetings following their consensus on a plan. We'll do the same presentation for all of you. So that's why I think it's good to have, one or two of you folks at that meeting. You don't all have to come because it's going to come to you eventually anyways. And then it will be presented to you guys and then for your discussion, and we'll go through the pros and cons again. You guys might have different ideas. You might suggest some different things. And then ultimately it comes out of this board with a recommendation to the commission on an action plan moving forward. And then it gets to the commission for them to make a decision on, approving it, sending it back to you, funding it, not funding it, those kinds of things. So it's that process that we went through. It's just the next step. That meeting will be actually the night after the mobility board meeting in August. So this board meets on August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th. That meeting is Wednesday, August 7th. It'll be at 6 o'clock and it'll be over in the commission chambers. I'll make sure that, you're all aware of it and get the invitation as just so you have it. And if you want to attend, you can. But I think Seth and Charlotte already accepted. So, but that doesn't mean that others can't come. So that's what that is.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's like a little mini of us, mini version. Andrew's waiting, he's waiting.
Patient.
And Mike, anything else you wanted to report on that or any of?
No, Rudy touched on everything else that I was going to mention.
Okay.
Can
Thanks.
we-
Yeah.
I'm sorry. again, just going back to the agenda, trying to build some patterns here. Can we get somewhere in here, a list of these types of projects that are going on? Like, you know, the scrubgrass. I don't know if it's in a subcommittee or it's just old business, but just so that, again, these items that are kind of in cycle. Yeah, we can keep a line of sight on, even if it's just to say no change. Sure.
Hey, Rudy, what I can do is I'll just work with you, you know, a week or two before this meeting. And I'll put together just a general summary of these projects with a couple of bullet points. And then we can just be an attachment to the agenda.
Sure. Okay, sounds good. I think we actually kind of have that already, Mike, with our bi-weekly meetings with Gateway
Right.
agenda, so, okay. Yep, shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and then to that point, we talked last time in the minutes about a painting, and I think it's already done, right? On a stop bar to be painted on the road at Woodridge Circle.
I didn't visually confirm that, but I asked our guys to do it, so I think it probably is already
Oh, okay.
done, so.
All right,
I didn't see it for myself or pay attention when I drive by there, so
okay.
I can look at it.
I might be getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, because we had public comments, a resident came in and asked for that, and
Yeah, and then
I'll double check on it, but I'm probably.
Okay.
Pretty
I
sure that
didn't
would've
have a
been done.
chance to go by there. I'm not even sure where that is, but I could find it, obviously.
Yeah, it was a public comment. It was the first person that public commented.
Yeah, okay.
Citizens comment at the last meeting.
Okay. All right, thanks, staff. And then subcommittee reports on the budget.
No, that's Lisa.
That was
and
Lisa.
I think Beth.
Beth, okay. Okay, they're not here. But that's what it was, so budget, and then. Okay, that moves us on to old business. Mount Lebanon Citizen Streets Improvement Program, so, but back to John's point, I think as a takeaway, you know, let's talk about some subcommittees, there's a lot going on here, so. We can't really maybe just always count on Rudy and Mike, you know, we should be up on all this stuff too. So, you know, how we can do that, you know, with our subcommittees or just to make sure that, and why I say that is because I think it would be effective rather than sort of collectively all of us trying to do all these things, you know, if we can focus on within subcommittees, assuming you guys have interest in those, you know, then we can get those reports on that. We didn't today because of that's not being here, but that's, you know. But my understanding for that budget is to just sort of look at the sidewalk list to say, you know, a deeper dive into that was their goal, so. I think that will help. The Mount Lebanon Citizen Street Improvement Program, so this is on, you know, our shared drive that I believe Seth drafted this. But I think that, you know, this would be, you know, the beginning proposal, but you know, we have to have some kind of program. I know we already do, but you know, if anybody had any more feedback on this. But, you know, again, the goal being just so we have something documented of how this should work.
And ultimately, this item, if the mobility board wants to move it forward, you will have to bring it forward for a vote in whatever form you want, to recommend it to the commission. Or consider it. So, yeah, I mean, until you guys are ready to have a conversation about it and make decisions and vote, that it will sit on old business until you do something or drop it.
Yeah.
I did have some comments on it that I shared mostly via email. If you want me to try to remember what they were like 3 weeks later.
Okay.
I know I was kind of commenting on an older version of it because I noticed that the version that was uploaded had some edits.
Okay.
So maybe it had been a little improved since I first looked at it. Yeah, I guess. From what I remember, it was, I think there's a lot going on in here. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know needs to be. It seems like it's trying to accomplish like multiple things at once. Like there's the core, like tactical urbanism aspect where residents improve streets, I guess with their own, using their own resources with municipal approval. And then there just seemed to be like extra stuff in that there was kind of just like committing us to do things kind of outside the scope of that. But even in the, as far as like the core scope of it, I think it could maybe be smoothed out a bit. I am personally interested in proposing something like this to the commission, but I don't know that I like it as it's currently written, and I should read the edited version of it, but maybe redline my own version about what I prefer to see, but I don't know if anyone else has any comments.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is a lot here, and, you know, I would kind of want to get at, you know, like, what would be the right amount of time that does this take years? Does this take a couple months? Like, what would be the right to say, like, to commit to this kind of thing? Like, in other words, then who follows it? Like, who's this audience for? Like, who, you know, and obviously that's what we're all new. We're trying to gather all this, but, you know, so in terms of when we had our very first meeting and we ran through the presentation, was that something of like what exists already? When we had the slideshow of what the process is?
I think it was just in general. Here's
Okay,
how, if you want to break policy to the commission, here's how this
okay,
operates.
all right, okay, so this doesn't exist at all today? No, okay, so that's a good start. We have to have something.
Yeah, residents do not randomly go and paint things or put things on our streets. Right, we would remove them,
Okay.
right? And that's, and I think that's where this is the type of initiative to say, look, how do we imagine allowing that, right?
Right.
Yeah, in what circumstances, right? And I don't expect mobility board to have all those answers, right? Staff would need to spend a lot of kind of time and resources on that. But staff aren't gonna pick this up until you guys say, hey, this is a good initiative. These are the benefits. This is what we think it should look like. Hey, commission, we think you should assign staff to look at it. And then commission will vote on it. And then it goes to the manager for prioritization so that Rudy and Mike and anybody else who would have to be involved would get involved to actually take it and think, okay, how do we actually operationalize this core thing? And then it would come back with their recommendations, either to commission or to this board, just depending on where things are at, for, you know, a vote, right? Because we would want to vote on a policy that says this stuff is allowed for, you know, whatever we need to do, right? There's legal issues that would need to be considered also. So that's why you guys are kind of at the starting point of this whole process. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be directionally correct. It will change. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We will have to legally curtail the things that you want. That's okay, right? But the process, I think, is a healthy one to at least consider these types of programs, recognizing that, again, we got lots of residents who want, you know, tactical implementations, solutions. How do we enable that? Right now, we have a hammer. There's no screwdriver. So let's create a screwdriver and see, you know, if that might be an incremental way to help, you know, while learning about our streets and before we put in hardscape.
I think when this was initially proposed by Mr. Basic, I believe, like my initial comment was like, well, what if we did something where it was like we had a list of pre-approved things that residents could do with very little red tape, like here's some things that are generally okay. And if residents want to do them, they can do them with minimal need for going through all these processes. So that's, whereas this, I got the impression it's more like every project would be kind of like a little boutique affair where the residents would come and engage the board and or the staff and or the engineer and possibly take a lot of bandwidth away from other things, which kind of scared me. Another kind of a random side note, but I was talking to Commissioner Grella via email a while back about something kind of like this. It wasn't for mobility. It was just like, I asked him, hey, could residents install things with municipality approval? The way I envisioned that, because I'm an engineer, is what if residents could engage their own engineer instead of going through like the public bidding process. If they wanted a traffic improvement, one option could be instead of going to Gateway, they could come up with a stamped plans and then present that to us. That kind of puts a lot of onus on them and could cost a lot if you don't have a volunteer, which is kind of what I was thinking at the time. But so like, yeah, I think there's some ways to do it other than everything is by committee, basically, which I don't know if that would be very efficient. Because if we could be opening ourselves up to like just a lot of distractions if we don't put guardrails in place to make it smooth.
I think I'm just concerned about the potential legal ramifications that could come with it. It just seems like there's, so much work that we need to go into that aspect of it alone, just to make sure nobody's gonna get sued or, I'm not like opposed. It's a lot. I almost like your idea, John, of just like, hey, here's a few easy pre-approved things. You wanna do these, like, I think the upfront work with that, there'll still be some work, but maybe not as intense as what's in here right now. And then this could expand from there, see if it's even interested.
Because I can't remember whether Seth said it was like there was a national guidelines or something like that existed. It's also in the name, our plan for Mount Lebanon as a whole and the one with national. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but it's kind of tough to be an early adopter. Nobody wants to be, buying 1.0 of anything or trying to implement it. We do want to be innovative and driving things forward, but again, cost benefit.
Yeah, I think that is always the challenge, right? And I would say suburbia has not done a lot of this yet. Cities have.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's where I think you see a lot of this. But you do see it more and more. And yeah, again, this is where it's like, I have an idea of what that might mean, right? But we all have a different thing of what that might mean, right? And so that's, I think, part of the exercise that has to be kind of be vetted out, right? Is, if someone said, I want to put a big giant planter in the middle of an intersection, I'd be like, no. Right? But if someone said, hey, I want to paint, big smiley face, on Greenhurst because the kids paint there anyway, right? Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Just make it nice, right? Do something, right? So it's like, how do we understand all these kind of moving pieces? That's really where this type of thing, has to get vetted by a mobility board or a subcommittee of a mobility board, however you guys want to do it.
I think it screams a subcommittee.
Gains additional discussion offline.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think provides, like you were earlier, that provides the core infrastructure for this group, there are only a finite number of subcommittees. Geez. And again, they're categorized by, you know, what do we encounter a lot or what are pressing problems? And that gives us focus. And then underneath each one, you know, each subcommittee has a, did you vet it? Did you find data? And then did you bring it to this board and take a vote on it? There's just some processes and procedure stuff I think that we have to build out.
Yeah.
I'm also noticing that one of the cities that was used as a template, it says City of Atlanta Tactical Urbanism Guide. I think our resources might be a little different than the City of Atlanta. So we have to take that into account too.
Right.
I'm thinking in terms of personnel mainly, but yeah. Right, your status.
And the weather as well. They probably don't plow much snow in it.
Oh, yeah.
In Georgia.
Fair, you know, and to that point, you know, then let's get maybe something like this in a similar, you know, 6 mile, like 30-some thousand, you know, resident, like. It's probably out there, maybe, you know, so I would like to move that we form a subcommittee on the Mount Lebanon Citizens Street Improvement Program proposal. And, you know, that's what I'm throwing out there. Any.
Would it be, would the goal, would this be envisioned as, I mean, I know that technically all the subcommittees, they all
You can
go
create
away at
it,
the
you can
end of
create
the
ad hoc
term.
ones. It'll end at the end of the
Yeah.
term unless the commission votes
So
for
that
it.
this is envisioned as a shorter term one that will work on this and then go away.
Yeah, that's what I'm envisioning, yeah.
Something to start.
So we need a second. Any discussion?
All in favor? Any discussions?
Charlotte, it is yours to call the vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So that passes. So now we have a subcommittee for this. I guess one of the discussion items I would have is, so with timing of that, so, you know, the commissioner meetings are twice a month. So even if we had something, but so realistically, looking at a calendar, if we had something, you know, we would have to think about when we would get it to you guys and then, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, that's something to.
Yeah,
consider
generally
as well.
speaking, I would just say, think about this as like a 6-month exercise, right, conceptually, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a race,
Right.
but, again, you wanna kind of set yourself some goals.
Yep,
I think that offline to do it, but
okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the subcommittee would then put something in place, bring it back to this board. This board would then vote on the final product to bring to the commission.
correct. And considering that subcommittee, to your point, right, that subcommittee will dissolve in
With the
March.
product.
So that's your deadline to create something that you want to bring forward to the full mobility board.
Right. That's good. I think that's a good start. I mean, I do think. We love plans. All right, the next item I have is new business.
Before I
I guess-
guess going to
yep.
new business, I wanted to ask about the prioritization of the sidewalks, if we're gonna, what we're gonna do with that, because I know that was something we talked about maybe 2 meetings ago.
Yeah,
And I put together a document, I don't. if we
Oh,
don't-
yeah.
if we don't use it, I don't care, I wasn't sure if people were still gonna review streets and add stuff, but what we're gonna do with all that information
Mhm.
and how we were gonna prioritize the streets. We don't have to talk about it now, I just wanted to find out when we were gonna talk. What the next steps would be.
did you get feedback on your document? or-
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff in there.
Okay. I mean, less folks have, you know, I don't know if we want to just put it on for next time. Is that okay? Does everybody remember what, we were talking about prioritize? And I think we were just sticking to the list that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's one way to look at it, and costs and other things. So let's do that. Let's take that away for, would that be old or new? I don't know. That would be old, okay, perfect.
And keep in mind, Woodland's already in motion to,
Yeah, we knew that.
So everything minus Woodland,
right,
Mhm.
and sidewalk review should be on the agenda for old business.
Okay,
Was that, excuse me, was that something on the budget subcommittee's plate or was it still our board?
that's what I thought it was, yeah.
Cause I had
Yeah.
kind of formed an opinion and been like, yeah, I'll prepare to vote yes on anything reasonable, so, yeah.
You're just blanketly saying
For
that.
someone to like actually
I'm out there, yeah,
come up
good.
with a, like formalize a recommendation.
I think that's what it was, yeah, that they were looking at that as well. So I would assume, and, you know, so we could look for an update with that next time, as well as the, citizen improvement program.
can I just throw out, I think the commission likes to see like rankings, so what is most important to the board? So start with the most important to the least important. There's numbers already tied to each one of those, either streets or segments. That will give us our sum or number at the end of the day of your highest priority, what you vote is number one, whether it's 100,000 or 500,000 or $1 million. And that's the request that we put in front of the commission to fund.
Rankings, okay.
Yes, I think that to simplify, that's basically what we're looking for.
Rankings and rationale,
Right.
short. There's.
Makes
Which is
sense.
basically what I put together, but just
More-
like,
more or less,
just
right.
an idea out there,
Right.
so whatever.
But then the group
however
has to
you wanna-
agree on it,
Right.
and that's what's presented to the commission.
Yeah, so maybe the subcommittee can review that.
Well, so again, subcommittee report is, this is what we did. Old businesses, we want to put forward this proposal for vote on,
Okay,
right?
yeah. I don't think we're ready for the, improvement program though, yet for putting on a proposal.
No.
Is what we're saying there, yeah,
No, it's just there.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
okay.
There's some funding that's already annually appropriated. It's a 5-year plan anyway. So there's funding that's not appropriated, but yeah, for sidewalks. So it's recommended in the budget to the commission and the manager every year. This would just more or less define it and give some structure to the actual number. How did we get to that number? We may throw $250,000 in each year as we're developing the capital budget, but this would be a real number based on field conditions and estimated cost, best estimated cost by the engineer. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I will add one thing to the other thing too with the tactical urbanism, if I might. There are gonna be some other costs that'll have to be approved. The engineer's gonna have to review it, the solicitor's gonna have to review it for liability and those type of things. So it's not just, it's an idea, but it's also something that has to go through that process, and there will be costs associated with that. A lot of that, I'm not a professional engineer, I'm not a traffic engineer. So our municipal engineer and traffic engineer will have to do a review of that, just out of due diligence. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
Not before it goes to the board.
No, actually, we'll go to commission,
Okay.
right? Because we need to bless it so that staff can engage.
And then. you
Right,
stuff
because
it out.
what we found, and I know we're kind of going along here, but
Yeah.
what we found with past advisory boards was that they'd be like, hey, Rudy, you need to do this. Hey, Rudy, you need, no. I don't even get to tell Rudy what to do. The manager tells Rudy what to do. I get to, have an opinion with the manager. Right, so we have to maintain this. Rudy's role here, right here, is to be an expert about what we do and what staff does and to, facilitate the meeting. Until we tell commission votes and tells the manager, we're just talking.
Then I think we talked through new business, I feel like we kind of covered that with, the possible no car day and things like that. Or were there other items to bring up for new business?
I wrote in there just the development of new subcommittees.
Okay.
Provide some structure.
Yeah.
Prioritize.
This is new business for next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about
Okay.
hopefully the budget and the sidewalks. And then, you know, what the subcommittees role, I already formed a subcommittee as of today, we all did on the improvement program, so. I think that's a lot for next time, but, you know, maybe they're.
Hopefully, as we get the structure established, these report outs are much more just, here's what we did.
Yeah.
And move on. It's not about, building, it's just creating structure so we can just move through things, right? Ultimately, these are business meetings, right? Man, the goal is, 7:30. Right, an hour and a half, that's what we're asking. Don't want to stay longer.
Yes.
For staff's perspective, from our own perspective.
More about this is making decisions versus doing the work.
Exactly. Yeah, this isn't just a coffee clutch, which that was the other thing about advisory boards was that, yeah, they could go for 2 hours, people just talking, and it's like, come on, guys. Let's move.
I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, want to announce the next
And the
meeting.
next meeting, is on August. It's on August 6th at 6 p.m. Here in this location and a Zoom available. Everybody.
Thank you.
Oh.